Marlon Brando revealed the 4 men he had affairs with. Marlon Brando transformed American acting with his raw, visceral performances, creating unforgettable characters in films like A Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront, and The Godfather. His revolutionary approach to his craft forced Hollywood to embrace a new, more authentic style of performance that forever changed cinema. As the original screen rebel, Brando's professional impact remains unquestioned. But beyond his artistic legacy lies another more personal revolution, one that challenges our understanding of this cultural icon and the era in which he lived. Throughout his life, Brando maintained a complex and deliberately ambiguous relationship with his own sexuality, occasionally making provocative statements while carefully avoiding definitive labels in an era when such honesty could destroy even the most celebrated career. Marlon didn't believe in sexual categories, revealed a former assistant who worked closely with the actor in the 1970s. He once told me, "Desire doesn't understand gender. It just understands attraction." This wasn't some political stance. It was simply how he experienced life. In the decade since his death in 2004, the carefully maintained boundaries between Brando's public and private lives have gradually eroded, allowing a more complete picture of the man to emerge. Through revelations from those who knew him, posthumous biographies, and the occasional confirmation of long-rumored relationships, we've begun to understand the full complexity of Brando's intimate life, one that included significant connections with men, as well as his more publicized relationships with women. What most people don't understand about Brando is that his sexuality was as rebellious and boundary-breaking as his acting, explained celebrity biographer Thomas Henderson. At a time when admitting same-sex attraction meant career death, Brando refused to play by those rules, even if he had to code much of his truth in ambiguous language and private behavior. Today, we explore 4 significant relationships that illuminate this hidden aspect of Brando's life. Connections ranging from confirmed affairs to deeply intimate emotional bonds that defy simple categorization. These relationships span decades of the actor's life and reveal not just private attractions, but a revolutionary approach to human connection that was as ahead of its time as Brando's transformative approach to acting itself. Marlon Brando's relationships with men reveal more than just additional chapters in his romantic history. They provide crucial insight into the extraordinary complexity of a man who defied conventional boundaries in all aspects of his life. In an era when homosexuality was still classified as a mental illness and could instantly destroy even the most successful Hollywood career, Brando's willingness to pursue authentic connections, regardless of gender, represented a form of personal rebellion as significant as his professional innovations. These relationships weren't incidental to Brando's identity, but fundamental aspects of a life lived according to his own rules rather than society's expectations. From intense emotional bonds that transcended conventional friendship to confirmed physical affairs that challenged the era's rigid sexual categories, Brando's connections with men illuminate not just his personal preferences, but his lifelong rejection of artificial limitations on human experience. By exploring these relationships with the nuance they deserve, we gain a more complete understanding of an icon whose private complexity matched his public genius. No, I just thought I'd try that for a while. You know, after 20 years, give yourself a break. The Unexpected Connection, Richard Pryor. Of all the revelations about Marlon Brando's private life that have emerged since his death, perhaps none generated more public surprise than the confirmation of his brief but passionate affair with comedian Richard Pryor in the 1970s. This unexpected connection between 2 of entertainment's most boundary-breaking figures remained hidden for decades, before being confirmed in 2018, not by speculation or rumor, but by someone who knew Pryor intimately. Yes, the comedian. This simple confirmation came from an unexpected source, Jennifer Lee Pryor, Richard Pryor's widow, who responded to claims about the affair with straightforward acknowledgement rather than denial or deflection. Her matter-of-fact confirmation transformed what might have been dismissed as celebrity gossip into established fact, forcing a reconsideration of both men's public personas and private realities. The revelation began with music producer Quincy Jones, who mentioned the affair almost casually during a wide-ranging 2018 interview with Vulture magazine. When asked about Brando's sexuality, Jones stated bluntly that Brando would underscore anything. He'd underscore a mailbox. James Baldwin, Richard Pryor, Marvin Gaye. While some of these claims were disputed by estates or remained unverified, the mention of Pryor received unexpected confirmation. This was confirmed by Pryor's own widow, Jennifer Lee Pryor, in 2018, noted entertainment journalist Rebecca Santos. Rather than dismissing Jones's comments, as many expected, she validated them through a statement to TMZ and subsequent social media posts. She stated not only that the affair had occurred, but that Pryor had been open about his sexuality with those close to him. Jennifer Lee's confirmation included important context that helped frame the relationship within the cultural landscape of 1970s Los Angeles. Rather than treating the affair as scandalous or shameful, she presented it as part of the free-spirited exploration that characterized both men's approach to life during that era. She said Pryor was openly bisexual in the 70s, and that he and Brando had a brief but wild sexual relationship. Santos continued, "This wasn't just confirmation of a single encounter, but acknowledgement of an ongoing connection between two men who, despite their public heterosexual relationships, privately acknowledged broader sexual interests." Jennifer Lee contextualized the affair within the cultural moment of 1970s Hollywood, noting drugs were still good and sex was free. It was the 70s. This framing helps explain how two major celebrities could engage in what would have been considered career-ending behavior just a decade earlier. The post-Stonewall pre-AIDS era created a brief window where sexual exploration flourished in certain circles, particularly among artists and entertainers who already existed somewhat outside conventional social boundaries. What makes this relationship particularly significant in understanding both men is how it contradicts simplistic narratives about their public personas, while reinforcing what we know about their rebellious approaches to societal norms. Both Brando and Pryor built careers challenging conventional expectations. Brando through his revolutionary approach to acting and persistent nonconformity. Pryor through comedy that confronted America's racial hypocrisy with unprecedented honesty. Most fans still don't believe it, but insiders swear it happened, noted Santos. This skepticism reveals more about the public's rigid understanding of sexuality than it does about the relationship itself. People have placed both men in heterosexual boxes based on their public relationships with women, making it difficult to accept evidence that contradicted these simplistic categories. For those familiar with both men's private histories, however, the confirmation merely validated what many had long suspected, that both Brando and Pryor approached sexuality with the same boundary-breaking attitude they brought to their respective arts. Pryor's autobiography and personal writings revealed a man who rejected limiting labels, while Brando had made numerous statements throughout his career suggesting a fluid approach to sexual attraction. The timing of their connection coincided with particularly transformative periods in both men's lives. Brando was transitioning from the career resurgence of The Godfather and Last, Tango in Paris toward the more eccentric later phase of his career, while Pryor was evolving from a relatively mainstream comedian into the revolutionary voice he would become with albums like That Nigger's Crazy and Centennial Niger. Drugs were still good, and sex was free. It was the 70s. This simple statement captures the cultural context that made their affair possible. A moment when traditional boundaries were being questioned across American society, and particularly within the artistic communities of Los Angeles and New York, for men like Brando and Pryor, who had always chafed against societal constraints. This era offered unprecedented freedom to pursue authentic desires without the rigid categorization that previous decades had demanded. The Brando-Pryor affair, brief as it apparently was represents more than just an unexpected celebrity connection. It illuminates how two cultural icons navigate the complex terrain of sexuality and identity during a transitional moment in American history, choosing authentic personal expression over the safety of conformity, just as they had done throughout their revolutionary careers. People say racing is dangerous, but I'll take my chances on the track. The rumored obsession. James Dean, strongly rumored, never confirmed. Few Hollywood relationships have generated more persistent speculation than the alleged connection between Marlon Brando and James Dean in the early 1950s, though never confirmed by Brando himself and impossible to verify after Dean's untimely death in 1955. This rumored relationship has maintained an enduring place in Hollywood lore, less because of concrete evidence than because of the compelling psychological dynamic it suggests between two of cinema's most influential